Welcome to the Rob Bro Show. I am Rob Bro. I am the host. You are the co-host. You can co-host today by commenting on the starting line, chat line. Starting line, chat line, brought to you by Starting Line Counseling. We're also in the Diversified Lenders Studio. Carson, how you doing, man?
I'm doing, Robbie. I'm doing.
Doing, surviving, whatever it is. The comments rolling in already on the Starting Line, chat line. Is this live? It is live.
See, it is live. Rob's got the best hat of the week so far right now going
hat of the
too.
week. Yep, the Mighty Ducks. The hockey
Flying V
movie. Let's do this. Let's start with what we were talking about as we started the show off air. The Michigan job has been filled, not been filled. It's been open.
It's been open.
Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. Two-part question: Are the Chargers the best fit for Jim Harbaugh? And two, who should Michigan hire?
I think that the Chargers, if there was an NFL job that's open that could have been taken, Jim Harbaugh fits better with the Chargers. I think that they have a better roster filled out than the other openings that were in the NFL. I think that what the Chargers want is to catch lightning in a bottle like he did with the 49ers. Justin Herbert is a better version of Alex Smith at the time that he was in San Francisco.
Colin Kaepernick.
He started with Alex Smith and then it was Colin Kaepernick. But Justin Herbert, and I think we'll have a fantastic time with Jim Harbaugh. But they're in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL now because you look at what Denver did late in the season. They got a lot better. I think Russell Wilson's figured something out. I think that Sean Payton is a really good the second best head coach in that division, second to Andy Reid. And you also have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in that division. So it's not like the 49ers when the NFC East was just the Seahawks and they were just starting to build what they were building there with Pete Carroll as well. So I think it's going to be a lot tougher in Los Angeles with the Chargers than it was for him in San Francisco in the NFC East, but we'll see. I think the Chargers made a really good hire, to be honest with you. It sucks for Michigan, but
I don't know that it does. I think he needed to move on, especially with the violations getting dropped, the ban hammer coming down. I think it makes more sense for Michigan to move on from Harbaugh. You mentioned Sharon Moore as the must hire for Michigan before we started. I don't know if you said it right there. I don't think you did.
No.
I've got a counter. Will the NCAA go lighter if they clean house? If not clean house, but they hire somebody from outside? They kind of try to keep a lot of the staff, even though Harbaugh's taking a few. I think he's taking the defensive coordinator and his son to be the special teams coordinator. I think that's what it was.
His DC Jesse Minter, I think, is going with him.
Yeah. But would it be prudent for Michigan to go and get somebody from outside to try to lead this thing? Now, if Jed Fish had been patient, maybe he'd have been in the mix. He was at Michigan a couple of years ago.
He's already in the Big Ten.
Oh, but yeah, now he's already at Washington. He's not gonna pull a UNLV and Chris Beard.
No,
be there for 2 weeks and then move on to Michigan. Sharon Moore makes sense. He was the guy or one of the guys that took over for Harbaugh while he was serving his time this year. But it also makes sense for Michigan, I think, if they're trying to avoid the Penn State ban hammer, to kind of go outside the box here and say, well, we kind of moved on from Harbaugh. Nobody from the Harbaugh regime is in charge anymore. A lot of those players have moved on. Let's go a lighter sentence and not punish people who weren't here while that was happening.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I mean, you look at what USC did when Pete Carroll left and all those sanctions came down. I think if Pete Carroll would have stayed and been still at USC when that happened, of course, this was in the early 2000s that this happened after the Reggie Bush scandal and everything. USC didn't get hit too hard after they fired Pete Carroll. Or didn't fire Pete Carroll after Pete Carroll left and went to Seattle. on his own. Kind of like this scenario. I guess that's the closest we can find to this scenario that was out there at the time. But things have changed in the college football landscape. It's not because of the giving money and benefits to players anymore. This is a scandal that I don't even believe should be a scandal anyways. Who cares? Michigan went out of their way to try and see what other teams were doing, and they did it in a way that got them caught. It was a stupid thing to do as far as putting a guy on the sideline in a Central Michigan coach's outfit. Like, that's dumb. Just sit him in the first row of the stands. You could do the same exact thing from the first row of the stands, and nobody would have ever known. Nobody would have ever known.
Right.
But like I talked about in an earlier podcast that we did, I'm a baseball guy. In baseball, we try to steal signs every single time we play a team. So if I don't have your sign stolen by the third inning, I'm not doing my job. So if Michigan's trying to steal signs, so what? Be butthurt about it all you want, but change your signs up if that's the case. But anyway, I don't know that
it's also commonplace for high school coaches to travel and go watch other games that they're about to play. And it's commonplace for NFL teams to travel. You can't film or video, but it's just, I don't know. It's pretty wild that was the scandal of the year. It didn't seem like that big of a deal to me either.
Yeah. I don't understand why Michigan would get slapped really hard with any sanctions or anything like that. You shouldn't lose scholarships or any of that over what happened at Michigan. I think, at the most, Jim Harbaugh was going to be suspended again, but they had already given him his suspension. So I just don't care enough about it. I think that if you are in this position, Sherrone Moore makes the most sense because he was the guy, along with the defensive staff as well, that held this team together while Harbaugh was gone. And let's Harbaugh like that. He was like the general manager of this team. He controlled. He didn't call plays. He didn't do any of that stuff like he did at Stanford when he was at Stanford. He called the plays at Stanford with Andrew Luck and those guys. But Jim Harbaugh. I don't think that the staff needed Jim Harbaugh to be great. This team was already good.
Yeah,
it was one of those teams that you were so mature in your classifications with your best players that you just tell them what spot they're in and they go out and play. And Sherrone Moore and the defensive coordinators and mentor and their staffs, they just did their job and put them in the right positions and win a national championship. I think Jim Harbaugh could have been out for the whole season. They still would have won a national title. So
I think
Michigan was just really good. That defense was insanely good. And the offense just was what they were. They had one of the best offensive lines in the country. They enforced their will. And they had a quarterback that was a good game manager. So we'll see if Jim Harbaugh drafts him in this draft with the Chargers.
No.
He doesn't need a quarterback, obviously. He's got one of the better young quarterbacks in the NFL, but
they just drafted the guy that beat him last year.
Yeah, they did.
Max Duggan.
Well, they also DFA'd Max Duggan this year too.
Well, he was on the practice squad though.
Yeah, he got cut and then re-signed to the practice squad.
Yeah, that's natural.
Yeah,
you're mixing your sports metaphors there with DFA. That's a baseball term.
DFA, yeah, that's a baseball term. Same thing.
Anyways, yeah, I think Harbaugh's a good fit. I would have liked to see him in Chicago. There are rumors that he wanted to be in Chicago and wanted to coach Caleb Williams, and Chicago decided to go with Eberflus instead. Stick with Eberflus. We'll see. Bears fans aren't taking that news well.
Have they hired an offensive coordinator in Chicago yet?
Bears, yeah, they hired Waldron, Scott Waldron,
Yeah.
the Seahawks guy.
Yep. I don't know that Caleb Williams is going to like that guy so much.
Cliff is interviewing with Pittsburgh last I saw.
That'd be an interesting fit to go with that defensive minded scheme that Pittsburgh has, and then with Cliff Kingsbury's offense. That would be a very interesting fit.
Yeah, we'll see. And then I don't think he'll get that or take that job. Not that he wouldn't be off.
He doesn't.
He would take it.
He doesn't fit in Pittsburgh to me.
And then you go Let's see. I don't know. You might want to learn from Mike Tomlin. That's not a bad fit if you're trying to
No.
coach eventually. Again. Anyways, the Falcons hired the Rams defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So that job is off the books. I saw a theory yesterday that I want to posit to you. Win or lose, Andy Reid retires, and Bill Belichick is waiting on the Chiefs job. That's what
So
I
saw that. I saw this random article about this too, is that Andy Reid is retiring if the Chiefs go to another Super Bowl. Whether they win or lose, he'll retire. I just don't see that happening. Like, unless Andy Reid is just totally fizzled out, which I don't see anywhere. You can always tell, like, Bill Belichick looks like a guy who needs a break, right? He's looked like that for 2 years almost on the sidelines. He just looks like the guy. He doesn't have that, and he's never been that up guy, the guy that gets excited about everything, but he'll fist pump every now and then when big plays happen. I never saw any of that when I saw Patriots games in the last couple of years from Bill Belichick. So he looked like a guy that was ready to get it, take a break at the very least, if not be done with things. Andy Reid does not look like the guy that wants to retire at the end of a year and not continue to have a lot of success. I mean, you have the best quarterback in the NFL on your team. I understand that he's gone through some family turmoil in the last few years. But Andy Reid just seems like he's a steady guy in that locker room. I don't know that the Hunt family would want Andy Reid to leave. I think they would do everything they could to make it to where Andy Reid doesn't leave, because you're going to hire, and they've already said that Matt Nagy is the guy after Andy Reid.
He's like 6 years younger than Bill Belichick, by the way.
What?
Andy Reid is 6 years younger than Bill Belichick.
Yeah, 6 years younger than Bill Belichick. So he's not young. Don't get me wrong. He's not young by any means, but I don't think he's old enough or feels like he's tired or any of these things to where he's retiring at the end of the season. I think this was a grab of a certain writer that wanted to get a lot of clicks, obviously, and to write something that could stir the pot a little bit. And I don't know that there's any truth or fact or, every coach thinks about retiring after they win the Super Bowl. Like, go out on top, man. Why not? Andy Reid's not there yet.
If I won my third Super Bowl in 5 years and I was 65, I would retire.
Even if Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, you could win a fourth one the next year?
100%. I would retire.
Fair enough. I just don't know that Andy Reid wants to. If he wanted to go out and all those things, Eric Bieniemy would have stayed, because Eric Bieniemy would have been the next guy up.
No, they were pushing him out. They pushed him out for 3 years.
Well, I know, because that's when they hired Nagy, but I'm just saying. No, I don't know.
Nagy was there before Bieniemy left. They were there together for a full season.
Right, yeah, he was the quarterback's coach last year. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Last year is whenever they started really getting after Bieniemy's job, because they hired Nagy as the quarterback's coach.
No, well, the year before they didn't extend him; they just gave him a 1-year deal.
True.
So
fair point.
They were trying to get rid of him for 2 full seasons.
Yeah. I don't know that. And Bieniemy had a great year offensive coordinating wise in Washington. That offense was pretty good this year. They just didn't play any defense.
It was okay. I saw Raiders for Cliff Last. Yes, he is actually in Las Vegas today. I just saw.
That'd be a good fit. Him and Antonio Pierce seem like that would be a really good fit in Las Vegas.
Is Antonio Pierce? Did they pull the trigger on him? Is he the head coach?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I saw Max Crosby say that he would ask for a trade if they didn't hire him.
Yeah, they hired him, I think, earlier this week. They made it official.
I will say this: Cliff and Antonio Pierce, that would be a fun time, but I don't know if that would work. You got to have some kind of adult in the room. I guess it's a player run. They're just young. It's be a player run atmosphere.
Yeah, a locker room like that could work, especially with who you see on the Raiders roster, like the Max Crosbys of the world. They don't need to be kept in a cage. They need to be, with rules and all these things. Max Crosby's a guy who paints outside the lines, man, and he's really good at it.
Yeah,
At doing that.
we'll see.
And Roy says Caleb Williams to the Raiders if Cliff is there. I think that would be a great fit for Caleb Williams, to be honest with you, with the Raiders.
How does that work? I mean, you're trading the whole.
But yeah, I don't know what you're going to trade. You'd have to trade Max Crosby if you're going to get the number 1 overall pick. But yeah, I think that locker room would actually work well. Obviously, at the end of the year, it worked well with Antonio Pierce's style. So why not try it and see what happens? Yeah, I don't think there would be any issue with that coaching hire, because if you're a player's coach, I mean, you've seen that in Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, who had some success. I don't know why they fired him.
Yeah, but Vrabel's not like those guys. Vrabel is Belichick, structure, power.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like that's like I guess Sean McVay and the Rams is it
Mike McDaniels in Miami.
Mike McDaniels, but they fold. They fold under pressure, those teams. Now the Rams won a Super Bowl because they went and got an experienced old quarterback.
Well, and they had one of the better defensive lines in the whole NFL that year too.
A great defensive line with Von Miller and Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
And they had Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you have a great talent, I guess, but the Raiders don't really. I mean, they have Max Crosby and Tyree Wilson.
Yeah, and Tyree Wilson.
Giving Tyree Wilson the benefit of the doubt there because
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they have Devontae Adams. Well, remains to be seen if he's still elite. Is what it is. We'll see. All right, let's move on from there. The NFL this weekend is the AFC NFC Championship games. The AFC. Well, we'll start in the NFC. Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, elite quarterback matchup. Just like the NFC and AFC, they're all the same.
Yeah.
The 49ers are favored. Where are you leaning here? Is it going to be a chalk NFC run here for the 49ers?
And I think that, look, I think that the 49ers defensive line is the key in this game, and they will get after Jared Goff. And we know what happens when Jared Goff gets pressured. He makes stupid throws. I think that Goff is going to have dudes in his face all night long or all day long. So I don't know how much it'll be all night long. It'll be, 3:30 in California, but 5:30 here. But I'll take the 49ers. I want the Lions to win. Let's put it that way. I think the Lions are the better story here. I think that it's a great story if Jared Goff can lead Detroit to a Super Bowl. And I also think that it's easier for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to win a Super Bowl if they're playing Jared Goff and the Lions. So, because that offensive line and that defensive line for the 49ers don't really match up well if you're the Chiefs or the Ravens, to be honest with you. But Lamar Jackson is scary good. So I don't know. We're not talking about the AFC yet, but yeah, I'll take the 49ers. But I'm rooting for the Lions, but I'll take the 49ers if I were to drop a penny in the bucket on it.
Same. I think I would take the Lions though to cover 7.5. The Lions have been really good. They're both 12-5. The Lions 6-3 on the road. The 49ers 5-3 at home. I don't know. We'll see. I would give the edge, though, to the 49ers in the win column. Chiefs, Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens favored by 4. Chiefs +4. Chiefs money line. Lay it all down. I'm all in on the Chiefs. I'll also take the over at 44.5. You have anything different there?
These are the two best quarterbacks in the NFL. as far as just what their craft is, their style of play is. They're the two best quarterbacks at what they do. When Lamar Jackson's healthy, he is one of the most, if not the most electric quarterback we've seen in the NFL ever, to be honest. Just the ability he has. And a lot of people talk about how Lamar Jackson's not smart and all this stuff. Lamar Jackson is football smart, though. Like, he makes good reads. He is so hard to bring down on first contact, whether he's running the football or he's in the pocket. He's got a really good arm. I think a lot of people underestimate his arm talent and they undergrade his arm talent with how accurate and how good and how clean the ball comes out of his hand. And obviously, we all know what Patrick Mahomes can do. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. He's never not been to an AFC championship game, which is an insane stat that no other quarterback in their life could say in their first 6 years of starting in the NFL. That is maybe the toughest feat to do in sports, is to get back to your conference championship game 6 years in a row. Like, that's just really tough, because you're talking about some good teams that they had to beat to get there. And if it's not for a bum ankle, the year they lose to Cincinnati in the AFC championship game, those things, he's probably in 5 Super Bowls out of those 6 years. So it's crazy to think how good these two guys are. But yeah, give me the Chiefs +4. I don't think they're intimidated by any atmosphere, because Baltimore is nowhere near the atmosphere Buffalo was last week. And the Chiefs seem to handle that one really well. So yeah, Chiefs +4. I think it's just going to be a great game. That's what you want, right? In the AFC Championship, you want it to come down to a field goal like the divisional playoff game did last week in Buffalo. But yeah, I think 31-28 Chiefs.
I like it.
I think that both offenses will score.
The total at 44. I think the Lions total's at 50.5. So I'll take the under in that one. I think that'll be a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
With those two quarterbacks and those two defenses. Unless Christian McCaffrey scores 6 times.
I don't see that happening.
Good. Certainly could. All right. Also this weekend, do you want to talk Royal Rumble or Texas Tech basketball?
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind talking Royal Rumble.
Have you seen the new Vince McMahon news?
No, I have not.
Oh, man, you got to go read the text. I'm not going to read them on here.
Okay.
And Tucker were discussing them this morning. And fun story. It's not a fun story. It's a bad story. But let's see. Yeah. You're reading them already? You found them?
Yeah, I found it.
Oh, you found the headline.
Yikes.
Yeah, go read the text. They're enlightening. And people were saying it wasn't him because he was using you and you are, like you're. And old people don't do that, but sure they do. Yeah.
No wonder he stepped down.
Well, this is a separate thing from when he stepped down earlier.
Right.
A different scandal.
Like
he's back, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
But now he's not. Now he's stepping down again. All right. Texas Tech basketball. Oh, you said who's the favorite in the Rumble?
Yeah.
I believe Cody Rhodes is the betting favorite.
That's fair. It's a fair bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would bet the field if it was him or Cody Rhodes. All right. Tech basketball playing Oklahoma this weekend in Norman, a part of a back-to-back road trip. They head to Fort Worth after Norman. Thoughts on the road trip to Norman, Oklahoma overall, and Texas Tech's odds there in Oklahoma.
There's a part of me that didn't like not having a midweek game because you're playing pretty good basketball the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
take away the Houston game. Obviously, we've talked about that. It is what it is. But not having a game in the midweek helps you get a little bit more healthy, some more shots up in the gym, I think, which is good before you head out on a hard 2-game stretch here to end the month at Oklahoma and at TCU, 2 really tough places to play. Not so much for the atmosphere at Oklahoma or at TCU, but just it's tough to go on the road at these 2 places and win. In Oklahoma, Porter Moser is a really good head coach. We've seen that since his days at Loyola. So this is a good test. If Texas Tech can win at Oklahoma and be 5-1, then you really start talking about this team really having a chance to win the Big 12, because I think the Big 12 champ is going to have 6 losses on the season. At least 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Because Kansas doesn't look like this, powerhouse team that I thought they were before we tipped off Big 12 play. And Kansas has a tough one at Iowa State tomorrow. So Kansas could have their 3rd Big 12 loss of the year coming up shortly, or 2nd Big 12 loss of the year. No, it'd be their 3rd, right?
3rd.
Yeah, because they lost at UCF in West Virginia. So it would. And that leaves a door open for teams like a Houston who started off slow, Texas Tech, Baylor. The Big 12 race is still wide open at this point. I mean, we talked about it before the Big 12 season tipped off, and we thought there was a top tier, which was Kansas, and then Houston just right below them, and then that middle pack, and then the bottom was West Virginia, UCF, and Cincinnati kind of in there. But those teams have shown that they can beat guys too. Oklahoma State looks like they're at the bottom of this conference now with West Virginia, maybe, but West Virginia's been able to knock off 2 teams at home that you didn't think would win, or that you didn't think they could beat. So it's been fun to watch this conference. Texas Tech going to Norman, though, is a big one early in this conference slate, especially in the first half of the conference slate, because for me, I break it down into 2 halves of this conference schedule with the 18 games that you play. So it's a big one. If you win, you really put yourself atop of this conference, and people start looking at you like, okay, maybe they're serious this year in Lubbock, and maybe they can get it done. I think if you go 1-1 on this road trip, whichever win it is, I think people think that you're pretty serious and that you can get this thing done, and you've got a chance to win this conference. At the very least, be at the top, 4 of this conference, which I think gives you a top 3 national seed. If you're a top 4 or at least a top 4 national seed, if you're in the top 4 of this conference, because it is the best conference in men's college basketball, hands down. There's no arguing. There's no, you can't tell me. And I don't think there's anybody out there that's debating you that it's the best conference in the country either. It just, you had 9 teams in the top 25 at one point. Yeah. You have 7 this week, I think. So, it just is. It is what it is. It's the toughest conference. It's the best conference in the country. And if you can go on the road and you can win, especially against a top 15 team in Oklahoma, and then against a really good and talented TCU team that should be ranked in the top 25, if it weren't for a couple of losses that they've taken, TCU could very easily be the number 20 ranked team in the country, just like Texas Tech is. So, it just is a grind every single night and Saturday, and then get ready for Tuesday, because that's going to be a good one too, but a big one tomorrow in Norman. I think that if Pop Isaacs can have half the night that he had against BYU in the second half at Norman, and then you can get some more from Warren Washington, who needs to play really well against Oklahoma. Their big guys are physical.
Yes, they are.
They want to get to the rack. Oklahoma wants to score in the paint. Against TCU, their first 19 points of the game against TCU were in the paint. They had no points outside the paint against TCU. Then they started to try and shoot threes and do all this stuff outside the paint. Guess what? TCU beat them.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma's game is to get the ball to the rack, get the ball inside, score from the paint area. Texas Tech is going to have to do a really good job of defending the paint and being really steady on the defensive end. I really like the way that they played against BYU, hedging ball screens instead of switching ball screens, which I think against a team like Oklahoma, it's a little bit different. You've really got to be good in the help side. You've got to watch the backdoor flash. Those types of things it's two completely separate offensive schemes, right? That BYU and Oklahoma have. And I think you have to set your defense accordingly, which I think that Texas Tech can do and will do. And offensively, I think if you're Texas Tech, you've got to shoot it well from the outside because Oklahoma defends the paint so well. And TCU did a good job of getting it in the paint. But like I said, it was 19 to I think 4 in points in the paint against Oklahoma in that TCU game. That's one that I really looked at where TCU should have lost, but Oklahoma just started doing what TCU wanted them to do. They packed the paint, kicked it out. Oklahoma doesn't shoot it as well from the outside, and that's why Oklahoma lost the basketball game. So if you can do that, force them to get shots from the outside, not kick out, wide open in rhythm threes because those are easy to knock down. But I think that you pack the inside. Don't let Oklahoma beat you from the inside and make them beat you from the outside because they're no BYU. That they are not.
That's true. No line yet on the game. There are lines in the rest of the Big 12. Let's go through them. Kansas State at Houston plus 14.5.
Wow.
I might still take Houston. They
locked Houston.
They're locked in.
They're ticked off. That's what Houston. Kelvin Sampson did something in that locker room that.
When it's home versus road too.
Yeah.
They're at home.
And Shed has just been so good at home.
Kansas on the road, plus 3.5 at Hilton Coliseum in Iowa.
Toughie at Hilton Coliseum. We all know how hard it is to win at Hilton Coliseum.
Did you see the drama with Iowa State and Kansas State?
No.
So allegedly Kansas State caught an Iowa State staffer filming their bench during the game and texting the Iowa State team what they were doing. There was also allegedly people throwing things at the bench, but that was debunked. Wild atmosphere. To me, it's just Kansas State for like the third time this year crying about losses and tossing unwarranted stupid stuff out just because they're upset they lost. They're going to hammer the entire game.
Yep.
But Tang went crazy during the game and almost like ran all the way down to Otzelberger and was like yelling at him. And Otzelberger went crazy and was like, "Get this guy a foul. He's out of his coach's box." Anyways, it was a wild atmosphere. But that's a Hilton. So maybe that's why they're so good at Hilton because they're watching what you're doing.
I mean, Hilton's a lot similar to Morgantown. You're going to get stuff thrown at you. You're going to get called names that you shouldn't be called.
Except they didn't.
Except what?
Except they didn't throw anything. That was a lot.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. But I've always liked the Iowa State fans, and I've always liked their atmospheres that they create both, at Jack Trice and in Hilton Coliseum. And if they had baseball, I'm sure they'd be a great baseball crowd too, but they don't.
West Virginia at Oklahoma State plus 4.5 for the road team.
This is a toss-up. Give me Oklahoma State at GIA.
Yeah, I'll take the home team.
Yeah.
No line, Texas, Oklahoma. No line, Texas, BYU. TCU, Baylor plus 5.5 for the road team. TCU, bounce back spot for Baylor, I think.
Yeah, this is a big one for Baylor. They can't afford to lose at home to TCU. I think Baylor has to win this game, so I'll take Baylor and Scott Drew. If Baylor has any inclination at winning the Big 12, this is a big one for them in the conference, especially like we talk about it all the time. You got to hold serve at home. You've got to win at home. That's why that Tech comeback against BYU was so big. Obviously, it was a great comeback and all of that, but it's a home game. You can't lose home games in this conference. And if you're going to, it needs to be against another top 25 team, not a unranked top 25 team, a team out of the top 25. TCU would be an okay loss at home, but you can't lose at home too much. And Baylor needs to, and they need a win. They really need a win. So.
Then
I'd take the
UCF,
Bears.
UCF Cincinnati plus 6.5 for UCF. Who knows who covers, but I would take Cincinnati to win at home. That's just kind of the goal here. But UCF, a couple of big road wins, or at least one big road win this year with the win at Moody Coliseum. Of course, is that
Yeah,
really
I'll
a big
take. Moody Coliseum is not exactly the hardest place to play,
win?
especially with how soft their head coach is at Texas. I'll take Cincinnati in this one at home. I like the Bearcats. They're a team that doesn't have like this superstar player. They just kind of figure it out together, right? Like they piece the puzzle together as it goes. UCF has Sellers, Jalen Sellers for UCF. He's their number one guy. He's the guy that's the scorer. But Cincinnati doesn't really have that number one go-to guy like a lot of these teams in the Big 12 have. So, but we've seen Cincinnati go on the road and do things. They win at BYU. That's a tough place to play in front of 19,000 fans. So at home in the shoe's a tough place to play as well. But if UCF knows how to win at Cincinnati, if anybody in the Big 12 knows how to win at Cincinnati, it's UCF and Houston. So UCF won't be shocked at the atmosphere they'll get in the shoe. It won't be anything new to them. But I like Cincinnati at home.
Same. Let's see. I guess Texas BYU. I take BYU and Provo. I don't know the line there. And then I need a score prediction for Texas Oklahoma. What do you think?
Texas Tech, Oklahoma. Man, it's a really big one for Texas Tech, and I really want them to win. But it just seems like they never play well in Norman over the last few years. I don't know what our record is in Norman over the last few years. You probably pulled that up. I know on your show tonight, on the Gambling Gauchos, I'm sure Ryan Mainville mentioned it. But I'm going to say Oklahoma 75, Texas Tech 69. I don't like it, but
how many to what?
75-69. They shoot free throws to win it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's like 72-69. Texas Tech fouls them a couple of times, and then they jack up a three, miss it, and Oklahoma gets a rebound, make one of two, and then the game's over.
You are 31 and 40 all time against Oklahoma.
I like that.
10 and 25 on the road.
I don't like that.
But let's see. In the last few years, 50.
You're looking for that.
Let's see. You won in Norman last year.
Wow, that one of your 5 Big 12 wins, but Oklahoma was just as bad last year as you were.
Yeah, you're 3 out of the last 5. 500.
Before that, you weren't very good.
Yeah. Well, but what are you, if not your recent history there, Carson?
Fact. That's a good point.
72-71 Tech from Ryan Bradley. Corbin says, if Tech goes 2-0 in this stretch of games, then there needs to be a conversation about being a protected seed in the tourney. 1-1 keeps you in the running. 2-0 makes you a favorite in the league.
I agree.
Overreaction Monday is going to be fire after Tech gets a road dub tomorrow. I don't think the Oklahoma win is big of a win as the TCU win would be.
Right. If you win at Oklahoma, and then
that'd be a good win.
Yeah. But then you go to TCU and you win, that's when the overreactions of, oh, crap, we're going to win the Big 12 start going.
But even if you lose at Oklahoma and then beat TCU, I think just in a vacuum, that's a better win.
I agree.
For how I think the season plays out.
I think it's a better win because Oklahoma is a game. They rank number 11 in the country, right? Like you're not supposed to win that game, but you go to TCU and you win. It's kind of a game where if you're ranked in the top 25, which you still will be if you lose at Oklahoma, don't get me wrong. On Monday, you will still be ranked in the top 25. Even though you didn't play all week and you lost at Oklahoma, on Monday, you'll still be ranked between 20 and 25, somewhere in there. I don't really care if you're not ranked, to be honest. If TCU is to beat Baylor on Saturday, they'll probably be ranked in the top 25. That's just how crazy this league is. Sometimes it just, you beat one team and then you're in the top 25. So, but yeah, I think that the game at TCU will be huge, especially with TCU going 2-0 on the week. A win at Oklahoma State, which Oklahoma State not a very good basketball team, but and then you beat Baylor at Baylor. TCU would be ranked in the top 25. You'd be probably 22. They'd be 24, 25, somewhere in there. So I think that's a huge game on Tuesday, even if you lose at Oklahoma, because that's a game that you feel like you should win at TCU, that you can win at TCU, and you love to win at TCU because I think it'll be a 50-50 crowd again at what is the TCU place called? I forget. Don't care. Ugliest floor in college basketball, by the way.
What is the
other than Oregon?
Schollmeyer?
Yeah, Schollmeyer Arena. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So losing tomorrow, it'll hurt. It'll sting a little bit, but losing at TCU, I think, would sting a lot more than losing at Oklahoma, to be honest. Now, if you win at Oklahoma, losing at TCU,
I think you have a better
lightens the
chance
sting.
at winning at Oklahoma.
I agree.
I think TCU's a better team, so I think it would sting less.
I'm not arguing with you there.
Fan wise, I guess it would hurt to lose to TCU more just because you don't want to lose to TCU. But
yeah,
basketball wise, I think TCU's a way better team and a tougher matchup.
I agree. And it's funny that Oklahoma's number 11 in the country. TCU's not ranked, and TCU beat Oklahoma.
I think Oklahoma's overrated.
I agree. I don't think they're the top 11 team in the country. I think they're
going to lose a bunch.
20 to 25th best team in the country, kind of like Texas Tech. So,
two close games though. I will let me see what their ESPN BPI is or whatever it's called.
The matchup predictor. Texas Tech, Oklahoma is 63.8% right now.
Oh wow,
60. Texas Tech a 36% chance to win.
So they'll be favored by 4 or 5.
Yeah, I would think it would be Oklahoma -6.5, -6.
I think the number is, if it gets to 75, I think that's a 6-point favorite. So I think it's 4.5 to 5.
Okay, that's fair.
Mainville and Kyle know the math. They
know the math. I don't know the math.
Oh, yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, see what? All right. Okay, that's all I got. I think that's all we were talking about. Cliff to the Raiders. Yeah. I'm glad he didn't go to the Eagles. That was rumored last week. Pittsburgh would be fine. I'm out of here, but I would have hated him with the Eagles. I'm not a Cowboys
the big
anymore, but
the big you're not. Yeah, you're a Texans fan now. We've brought you over to the better team.
Yeah.
Big Lubbock asks if Tech's pitching is going to be how it's going to be this year.
Yeah. What's on
the All Big 12 preseason teams came out. Gavin Cash, the only person on the All Big 12 preseason team, and obviously so. I'm just glad they didn't vote him the preseason player of the year because that never works out.
They whiffed Gage Harrelson. Gage Harrelson should have been on the preseason.
Yeah, I thought that was probably the only snub really that you got. No other players really showed a lot last year as far as being a first team preseason guy. And obviously they're going to give a lot of guys looks from other teams too that probably won't be on it at the end of the year. But yeah, and then Texas Tech ranked number 21 in the country in one poll that's come out. I think I can't remember what the Baseball USA poll was. But anyway, we'll get more into baseball and do a full roster breakdown probably first week of February.
Yeah. It's basketball season, so
yeah.
I'm waiting on Texas Tech to update their roster so I can see my roster.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I'll have to text my boys in the athletic department and tell them, hey, man, I need an updated roster here, boys.
Trying to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we'll get more into the baseball thing in February and as we get closer to first pitch. So, but you're going to be better. You're going to have a lot of unproven arms on the mound, but I think you'll be better because, guys like Kyle Robertson and Robinson, those guys, they'll be better just with all the experience they had late in the year last year as well. So,
All right. See you Monday.
Yeah. Peace.
Let's do it. Go Chiefs.